Madam Chair, it is 6:30.
Meeting will come to order. Madam Clerk, can you read the roll, please?
Marco T. Camacho.
Here.
Lynn Underwood Segley.
Here.
John F. Flores.
Here.
Catherine E. Leonard.
Here.
Justin S. McLaughlin.
Here.
Jean Marie Napolitano.
Here.
Naomi Neville.
Here.
There's a quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has anyone signed up for the Citizens Forum?
No, they have not.
Council liaison update, Councilor Neville.
I was just going to talk about briefly on one action item on our agenda is regarding the playground back here, and just to state that for those who've been interested in it, the cameras have been turned. They now overlook the courts. As of today, there is a direct police feed, from the cameras to the police station. So basketball playing is okay, but other behavior is not allowed. And we'd like to just make sure that the students and anyone who's enjoying the courts keep it to that. They're playing their sports and good. We're also taking measures to implement some new bollards and fencing. And just in general, the police are going to keep an eye on the area better to make sure that the right behavior is being used in these courts. And this is an ongoing process, but we made good headway at the last liaison meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other updates? Okay. I would just like to remind people that there is a police parade at noontime on Broadway on May 1st, this Sunday. Okay.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to add a public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant application.
Second. There's a motion and second to add a public hearing for the Community Block Grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to continue this block grant hearing to the May 11th regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second. There's a motion second to continue this public hearing until the May 11th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
The consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar, all items with the exception of item number 3, 9, and item E.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a special event license, Bowen's Wharf Company.
Madam Chair, I make a motion at this time to amend the application to reflect Bowen's Wharf Oyster Festival rather than Bowen's Wharf Seafood Festival. May I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second for the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve Bowen's Wharf Oyster Festival as amended.
Second.
There's a motion second to approve the festival as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a special event license, Road Race and Events Incorporated, DBA Newport Road Races.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Leonard.
I was looking through this, and as the council still does not have a policy in place, and we're working on it, I see in the application...
Councilor, can you speak into your mic, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I see on the application that we're talking about 2,000 people participating in the middle of April, and it's a year away, and part of the application says restricted roads, barricaded running lane on Memorial Boulevard, and I had some questions regarding whether is there anyone here, were there other segments of this race were approved in other communities?
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Susan Rancourt.
Okay. Did you apply? You applied to Middletown, I'm going to guess?
Not yet. We have not. We were taking it one step at a time.
We've spoken with the Middletown Police, and they've approved it.
They approved it?
The
She
police-
said no. when
the
you
police
said-
The
have.
police have given their blessing. We have not gone before the town council yet.
Well, I'm going to tell you for myself, because we don't have a policy, and because we're talking 2,000 people and restricted road and barricaded roads, that until we have a policy, I think you have a year to go. So I myself just don't see that I can approve it at this time.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
Just like to point out, you guys are new. You're not new to the business, but you are a new business entity. So
Yes.
you kind of
Correct.
need a year to prepare going out, just to make sure that, yeah. Motion received?
Second.
There's a
Okay.
motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, back to where I was. From a person who, holds events in his, private life, I understand the need for planning ahead of time, especially since this is going to be your first race as your own separate business. I know you guys have experience within the industry, within races. So I can completely understand. I'm more than willing to, and just like Councilor Leonard said, we do have, some issues where we're trying to balance out how we operate these road races going forward. We are getting more applications now than we have in the past, but I would actually move for my fellow councilors to approve this road race event, subject to details being worked out with city administration. But I think the dates can be reserved already for April 16th, 2017. I have no problem with that.
I would
So that would
support,
be in the form of a motion.
I would second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to at least approve the dates, subject to details being worked out by administration, but I would also add, not only by administration, but also the council. This is an issue that's come up before the council several times in the past in regard to road races, and just so that, if in fact there are some changes that we want to make, it would be subject to any changes that we would make in regard to road races in Newport.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor?
I think 2,000 people without a policy in place and without real details of how that would happen. We had a big enough problem when we had the night race, and the merchants and the restaurant owners and the citizens were not happy. I just think it's like putting the cart before the horse.
I would say that at this point, though, I think giving sort of preliminary approval to move forward with the discussions with the staff to work out the details at least sends the message that we're willing to give the event a try. If we say no, then I think that doesn't allow them to develop something that could be possibly quite successful.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, who wants to talk? Counselor McLaughlin?
I think Councilor Leonard raises valid points which we need to address, but at the same time, April 16th, bringing in 2,000 or more people into the city during what is otherwise a relatively quiet weekend in April, I think can only be good for businesses, and I would just be concerned that we aren't competing with Daffodilian. But this could be a great opportunity to bring economic activity into the community. But Councilor Leonard is right. We need to have a clear understanding of what we're doing, and these are things we can work out. But I can certainly support the concept of moving forward on this.
Yeah, I'm with Councilor Neville on this. I think there's plenty of time here for us to iron out all the details. And I also agree with Councilor McLaughlin. This is an opportunity for a significant amount of economic activity to be drawn to the city. So I'll definitely support it pending details being ironed out.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd also like to say that, since this would be the first race in that time frame, that it's important that we give these folks enough time to market and advertise the race itself, because we want to maximize as many runners as possible coming into the city of
We do
Newport.
too.
Obviously, we have an economic incentive to see that you succeed, so
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor.
do you have a maximum of 2,000 like this application, or would you sell more than that if you had more people that bought tickets?
Well, we would hope to. Our
Again, I have to
guesstimate,
ask you to talk into the mic.
I'm sorry, our guesstimate is that 2,000, because it would be, for us, a first-year race in Newport. We're doing a race this weekend in Providence, and we had estimated about 2,500, and we're pretty close to about 2,500 or 3,000,
And
so.
do you shut it off at your estimates, or do you keep going?
Well,
Do you mind if I speak?
no, go ahead.
All right, so I just wanted to speak to your point. Part of our core mission is to work very closely with you all. And so we can tailor the race based on your feedback because we do want to be good partners with the community that we're in. So if you'd like us to set a cap, we are more than open to that discussion.
Okay, are we ready to vote? All in favor of allowing the race, subject to working out the details with administration and whatever council comes up with?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One nay.
That was just a call.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Communication from Martha McCann Rose, PhD, Salve Regina University.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Counselor.
just have a
Levitt.
quick question. Maybe somebody can just confirm that there's no other activity planned at the park that day so that we
Thank you
don't
for
have
hearing us.
competing events.
Oh, okay. I am Martha Rose, and this
Yes,
is Andy
thank you.
Surley, the
Thank you very much.
head of the Salve Student Government. And we checked with the Recreation Department.
did?
We
Okay.
are on their reservation list. We are it.
Okay, have fun.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
I move for approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Weren't there some restrictions which were asked to enumerate for this?
Yeah, whether,
Porta-johns and somewhere. I've got to
yes.
figure it out.
Would the clerk
Yes.
enumerate the,
Salve is to provide shuttle service, portable toilets, and no structures erected.
We are happy to be having our event there, and we agree to all of those. And we have already reserved the facilities and the transportation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Night.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a new vittling license, Gather Herbs, Inc., DBA Gather, 312 Broadway.
Yes, this is a vittling license for Gather's Herb at 312 Broadway. I move passage.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a vittling license, new owner, Pan Am Amalgamated LLC.
Yes, this is a vit license for Newport Fruit and Smoothie Company, 30 Bowens Wharf. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion second, discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, ayes have it.
Application for a farmer's market license renewal, Aquidnet Growers Market.
This is the farmer's market renewal on Memorial Boulevard between Chapel Street and Eggard Court. I move passage.
Second.
Any is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, ayes have it.
Application for a new sidewalk cafe license, Picnic LTD, DBA Picnic, 26 to 28 Bellevue Avenue.
This is a new sidewalk cafe license for 2628 Bellevue. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, ayes have it.
Application for a renewal of a sidewalk cafe license, Ben's Chili Dogs LLC, DBA Ben's Chili Dogs, 158 Broadway, with a new plan proposed.
Madam Chairman?
First of all, there has to be a motion, and then we can discuss it, okay? I make a motion to approve the newly proposed plan at Ben's Chili Dogs. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion, yes.
No, I think all our merchants have been through quite a bit, and I'm all in favor of just supporting everyone's request to allow for however number of seatings they feel is appropriate. And 45 days from now, we can review everything and make a determination to see if it works, but I'm fully in favor of approving all of these.
Okay, is there any other discussion? You know, I would just like to say, I believe the latest application for Ben's Chili Dogs is 6 tables with 4 seats. So
Yes.
that's 24. You know, I'm more inclined, they have gone from, I believe, 2 tables with 2 seats, which is 4 people. 6 tables with 4 seats is 24 people outside. And, you know, I'm all for adding a lot of flexibility for these restaurants on Broadway. However, I think it might be a little bit excessive on Broadway, and I'm just wondering if maybe we do 4 tables
Madam Chair.
as
Chair.
opposed to the 6.
Madam Chair.
I would concur with that, and I think, again, the merchants, the restaurant people have gone through a lot on Broadway, and I think it's good if we can get a boost and have outdoor cafes, but also we don't have a policy in place, so what we are looking at in terms of all of these, I think this is the only one that is a change from the previous, correct?
No, I
Madam
believe the next one has changed too.
Yeah, but I thought the city manager said that became kind of a
No,
moot point.
you do
They
have
moved.
policy. Your policy
We
is
do have
iterated
policy.
in your ordinance. However, I am suggesting, as some of you are suggesting, a little bit of flexibility. You've been flexible in the past. What I wanted, I think it might have been John just a moment ago suggested, and I want to emphasize that, and I think it was my original recommendation, that because of the hectic nature of things going on Broadway, I do think that the ordinance that we have, your policy, needs to be redrafted. I have some suggestions that I've come up with that I've given to all of you, but in my mind, and actually in retrospect, I wish I had had those suggestions in front of you this evening in a formal manner. However, in my opinion, there is kind of a trial and error period here, and what I would like to suggest is that regardless of what you grant this evening on this one particular application, I just want to emphasize that I think we should relook at everything in 45 days. In 45 days, and by the end of May, that first 600 feet from Quality Park on down to, I think it's Oak Street, is presumably going to be done. So the parking's going to be restored, the sidewalks will look like sidewalks, and we can actually then be able to craft an appropriate, what I would suggest, appropriate amendments to our ordinance based upon how things are visualized at that time. So regardless of what you look at, I've struggled with, I walk up and down Broadway every day, and I try to count and I try to envision in my own mind the use of, for example, the bump outs. And you can find little flaws in all of them in terms of how they can't be used from a restaurant perspective, and also from a sight line for a public safety standpoint. There may be some strictures with regard to those. But so I think this is, in my opinion, we need to crawl a little bit before we can walk in terms of the ultimate policy. I've looked at some other communities, Charleston, South Carolina. I gave you just some bullets on those this afternoon. I looked at New York City, but that's probably a poor example to use. But I think Charleston is a little bit more on point. Their ordinance is not much different than ours, but the major things that you'll have to consider at some time is indeed whether we will perpetuate the use on the outside of the sidewalk area, which you don't really allow by ordinance right now, but you allowed it last year in terms of one establishment. You made an exception. And also the issue of, that I see that we need to consider is allowing some of the merchants to maybe encroach upon adjacent properties. Is that a good idea or is that a bad idea? I think some of their business plans anticipate that, and indeed, at least this one particular licensee that's in front of you does show that on their plans, encroaching upon, I think, the adjacent properties, which otherwise is not allowed in your ordinance. But I'm suggesting flexibility, and actually, I'm going to suggest in any amendments that perhaps that could be allowed in terms of a very minimum encroachment, but of course, subject to your review and subject to the permission of that respective adjacent property owner.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair,
Yes, first,
Can I finish?
Counselor Neville, then
Thank you.
Counselor Leonard,
I
please.
just wanted to bring up the point, though, that these requests are coming from business owners that have been heavily burdened for a number of years. They're also responsible for bringing the tables in and out each night. So
11
I
o'clock, right.
believe that the quantity of tables will be sort of self-regulated. If they work, the owners will be taking them in and out, and if they don't work, they will not be using this money. But I think the tables of 6 is a reasonable request for a business owner that's been heavily burdened. And again, if they don't need all 6, they're not going to be using all 6 because they do have to take them in and out every night. So I believe it will self-regulate itself. And I don't think at this point it's in our best interests to curtail their ability to try to recoup after a struggling half a decade.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I agree with that, as I said before, and the reason I brought it up is because I just want to make sure that we have the 6-foot unobstructed passageway for pedestrians. And then the city manager gave us this afternoon some of the fundamentals, which is the most important, the 6-foot unobstructed passageway between the cafe and the curb, and that at 11 o'clock, all seating and obstructions must be removed. But I like fine dining. I like fine dining and hot dogs too. So as we can see, I like eating outside. Thank you.
Also, I think one of the fundamentals, or one of the Newport Cafe, the owners of these establishments are responsible for keeping an eye on the tables outside, the behavior of their clients,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
their
absolutely.
customers. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor
Uh,
McLaughlin.
I'm maybe a little bit more concerned about one aspect of this than others seem to be, and that is the encroachment. Is I believe Leo's Market actually has a kitchen in it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I think Leo's Market has a kitchen in it. And, you know, next week he may come in and say, I want a sidewalk cafe too, and I want to encroach. And when you let one person encroach towards him, you're creating a problem. And I really don't think we should approve a license that involves encroachment beyond the property lines of the business. I mean, I'm going to say something outrageous. I'm willing to waive the fee for this business this year,
Right.
charging them $300 to serve hot dogs when we're going to have a liquor establishment across the street with potentially 40 seats selling liquor and charging them the same amount of money is preposterous.
Yeah, I would agree, right.
And,
I agree.
but I want these people to succeed, but I'm a little bit concerned with my chair that maybe 6 is too many, but particularly because the one table encroaches, and I'd rather approve it with 5, and let's see how 5 works, and if it works fine and we can go to 6, I'd say go back to the 6. I'm saying when you rewrite the ordinance, because these people are serving hot dogs, and they're not doing table service. I don't think they're going to sell the hot dogs. You're going to go out and sit at the table and eat it. We have a number of different business paradigms that are
Yeah,
governed by the Sidewalk Cafe ordinance. I really think we need to address it. You're basically saying, don't go to the curb, but we're going to allow them to do that by doing this. So, because they're going to be
Well, I'm not discouraging it.
right.
And
think we
in
need-
fact, you guys, the city, if you will, the council permitted that last year across the way. I absolutely agree that the fee structure needs to be examined in a much more equitable way. I agree with that point exactly. I perhaps some of this is my fault in terms of the weekly meetings that we have with the merchants, and they've been not just the restaurant owners, but the other merchants. They've been actually very flexible in understanding and have worked with us, and we have worked with them. And we have encouraged, or we had suggested that perhaps from an administrative standpoint, we've never suggested that we've always said that it's the council's final decision, but we've suggested that perhaps we could be a little more liberal on the ordinance requirements, and I'm reflecting on the curb issue most likely this year, just because of how hectic everything has been up there in that first 600 feet, though they're making, they're ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. But I do have a host of recommendations in terms of a new ordinance, and some of them you may not like, some of them maybe you'll embrace all of them. But I mean, that's also a good point you're making, Justin, about the table service aspect of it. This particular place may be unique in and of itself in that maybe they're not providing table service. I think every other, in my mind, at least the ones that I'm thinking of, all those others are providing some form of table service, and it's all intact within the perimeter of their service area, which, interestingly enough, both Charleston and New York City mandate that you can't serve from outside of the perimeter and the like of the service area, ADA requirements as well. So these are some of the things that I'm going to bring forward to you. What I'm most interested in ultimately, at least from my perspective, is fostering a safe environment, fostering an attractive environment in terms of a little symmetry in terms of these cafes, so it doesn't look like a jumbled mess out there, that it has some style to it, and appreciation not only from the resident standpoint, but from new visitors to the city. But right now there's not much I appreciate the construction, and I appreciate where it is, but it does at times look difficult. Particularly today, where they were working in the next 600 feet, and they had the backhoes going in the piles of dirt, but then you walk up towards the Equality Park area, and you see in that first 100 feet where they're putting the pavers down, you can start to envision what it's going to look like ultimately, and I think it's going to look pretty neat. But the important thing is the attributes that go along with it, which is, I would describe an attribute as being one of these sidewalk cafes. They've got to complement the new construction, at least in my opinion. And so that's why I'm suggesting I'd like to take a look at it, or do a recheck and bring back to you at that 45-day mark an ordinance, relook at the visual aspect of it, get everyone's opinion on it, and while that may not help the merchants in terms of the investment that they need to make for their tables and chairs and things like that, I still think it's something necessary that we need to do. And again, public safety is paramount, and some of these bump outs are going to be problematic in terms of where the crosswalks are located in sight lines and things like that. So we still have some work to do on what I'm going to describe as a new ordinance. I don't think that the current ordinance is sufficient. But obviously, it's not sufficient. If we're going to make exceptions to it, we probably, from a strict constructionist standpoint, we shouldn't be making exceptions to it. But I think everyone recognizes that the ordinance needs some work, and we need to craft something that's going to be compatible and works for all of us.
Mr. Nicholson, what are you suggesting for a date certain for review?
I was just counting out 45 days from now. I mean, I'll bring some. I mean, we're fixated on this right now. I walk up and down and look at different ordinances every day. I don't want to lose track of it, so right. I'm suggesting whatever the meeting 45 days from now or roundabout is for the council, that we have a good product, because as I said again, we'll be near the end of things in that 600 feet, and I think that's where we have the most I know it is the most concentration of restaurants that would take advantage of the outdoor cafe and these things like the bump outs and the wider sidewalks and the like. It'll be, and at least if we come back with you, to you in 45 days, we'll be able to then, we'll have something for the lower part of Broadway already intact, and we won't have to have this discussion anymore.
Okay, Councilor Segley.
I have gone back and forth on the 4 to 6 tables myself, and, I've worked closely with some of these Broadway merchants through this difficult time, and I understand how hard it's been, and that they're sort of relying on this outdoor service in order to recoup some of the losses that they've had over the past couple of years. I think right now I would stay with the 6 tables because I think it's hard right now to visualize what it will all look like. And I feel comfortable that in 45 days we'll have a much better idea as to the circumstances happening on Broadway and whether it's too much or not. So I'm all for the 6 tables at this point in time.
Madam
I
Chair?
have one more point to make too. Also from the business owner standpoint, having 6 tables really adds to the vibrancy, the commercial vibrancy of the area. And perhaps it's more enticing for a potential customer when they see that there's adequate outside tables that they can go in and enjoy a hot dog rather than go in and come out and have to walk around eating it. So this could also be looked upon as a positive business generator for the businesses.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor.
I think if somebody wants to see a nice example, and I wish I'd brought it, when I was in Naples, Florida in December, I brought a booklet home that the Fifth Avenue merchants put out in the restaurant, and almost every restaurant there has outside dining, and it's really, really pretty, and it's packed. At the end of Fifth Avenue, they have these little tiny lights that go from one side of the street all the way down the street and across the street, and it really adds a nice ambiance. So I think that we could offer suggestions that would make it look nice, draw more business, and I think it would be good for that side of town and any part of town if we can do it. Thank you.
Right. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor.
Just, I'm actually looking at is there anyone here from Ben's by chance? I just have a couple questions.
Can you identify yourself for the
Yes,
record?
good evening. Peter Gallipo, part owner of Ben's Chili Dogs.
Hi, Mr. Galpo. Thanks for coming up. I'm looking at the design schematic that was provided.
Yes.
And if I draw a east-west line from your store frontage, it looks like the 6th table kind of sits in front of a residential entrance that is the neighbor's. Have you been able to directly communicate with the neighbor and they have no objection to that because of the encroachment? I understand what Councilor McLaughlin is saying about encroachment and with Leo's Market being a place that actually serves food themselves, just trying to, make sure that from a commercial standpoint, everyone's being neighborly.
Sure.
Is that-
That entrance is to residences up above. I believe there's several apartments. So there's not a single tenant, but a number of them. And it's not in front of Leo's Market.
But that's not your entrance, that belongs to...
Correct.
Okay, and it's not the person you rent or...
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
They're not a subtenant.
Okay.
They're
but
independent.
Okay, there's no issue. All right, Madam Chair, thank you. I'd
You're
actually
welcome.
say, I'm willing to try out the 6. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure if it's going to work, but you know what, it's 45 days, it's at the beginning of the year, I'm fine. I'd also like to echo what Councilman McLaughlin said, that I think we should waive the $300. It does seem a little bit excessive for, some day trippers eating some hot dogs, so. I guess I would make a motion to approve all 6 chairs and waive, 6 tables, and waive the $300 application.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor.
I'm comfortable that the manager will come back to us with some good recommendations. I do want to make the point, though, again, that if we weren't violating 2 potential rules here, we'd really have a problem. If we were insisting that these tables be up against the business, They could not put that sixth table in front of the entrance to the residence. That's only potentially possible because we're actually moving it away. But I'm willing to see how it works out, and I hope that's one of the things we look at. And
Absolutely.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor.
I'm glad people are seeing that the 6 tables is a good way to start. My only concern about waiving the $300 is I believe at our last council meeting, we approved a number of sidewalk cafes, right? And they all have to pay the $300?
Well, I'll just tell you that we had a discussion early on in this process about the dilemma that many of these merchants were going through because of the construction. And it is a dilemma, and it's a daily dilemma. The construction has displaced their parking, has displaced their sidewalks, so I don't think we've, I'm not sure, and we represented to the Broadway Merchants Association, who they have some direct representation in terms of we can look at fees.
What about this? Could we say that all the applications with less than 10 tables can get that fee waived for this year?
Well, I'd like to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and we've been doing that.
Well, we need to
And all the
resolve
merchants
this,
should know that, too.
But we need to resolve this tonight. And we already approved a number of, right, applications last meeting. So I feel like we just need to have sort of an equal policy that we can just sort of say, perhaps, the applications that we've already seen and we'll see in the future for this year that are under 10 tables, we waive the $300.
Madam Chair?
Chair.
Both sides, wait a minute. Counselor
I'm just trying to mentally calculate,
Yeah.
the Empire Tea doesn't have a liquor license. The Corner Cafe doesn't have a liquor license. I can't think of somebody else who has a sidewalk cafe license in that area of the city that doesn't have a liquor license. So those would be the three entities that, they're not benefiting by selling booze. So I'm not worried about the people who can sell liquor. In one night they could sell enough beer to pay their $300 thing. I'm concerned about people that are selling a cup of coffee and a donut. So Councilor Neville, I'd be willing to,
Waive the fee
waive
for
them for
non-liquor
anybody who doesn't have a liquor
owners.
license. And just for this year.
For
I mean, this is
just
a
for
gesture.
Broadway.
I'm
I
fine with
mean,
that. Right, so we're talking about Broadway owners who are applying for sidewalk cafes who do not have liquor license for this year can get the $300 fee waived.
That's in the form of a motion?
That is
I'll
a
second
motion.
that.
Second.
There's a motion and a second discussion.
So that's part of
Well, I hate to say this, I have a problem with this. We're all over the board again, and as much as I like the idea of having some sort of balance in this picture, until the manager has an idea of how this is going to work and we really, go through it, it's going to be difficult, and we're going to hear from other people in other parts of town that have paid the license.
I just want to go back, if I can just go back to what happens every Thursday at 2 o'clock in City Hall, and that is that I meet with the merchants, Bill Riccio meets with the merchants, Lynn Segley meets with the merchants, and maybe some of you have attended as well. I think Justin came to a meeting, and we talk about these issues. And one of the things that I thought I had the authority to do was to talk about the impact of construction, and we have offered, the merchants are organized. The Broadway Merchants Association, they have some very vocal representatives, and we have offered that if you believe the construction has impacted you, then all you have to do is request a waiver of the fee. Now, in terms of the 2 places that are not serving alcohol, actually I think it's only 2 places now that I think about it in terms of outdoor cafes, the Empire and perhaps this place. I can't think of any other place that has an outdoor cafe. So we're only talking 2, and I'm not going to have any heartburn over that, but I just want you to be aware of what occurs every Thursday in terms of these discussions that we have about issues like this, about the construction, we get updates on the construction every week. We talk about alternative methods of construction. We talk about tree wells. we talk about ordinances, when we talk about the impact of costs. So, while I don't necessarily I don't have an objection as to what you're suggesting. Actually, there's 5 of them: Empire, Scratch, Corner Cafe, Hungry Monkey, and I can't read the last one. Ben's. So
There's also the bakery and the pizza.
yeah, but they don't have outdoor cafes. And this is not going to break the bank. But I just wanted you to be aware we have these discussions, and we have offered that if merchants, again, if they're having a problem, just ask, and we'll make those unilateral decisions when the request is made. But if you want to go ahead and make it a blanket policy, then I'm not going to object to it.
I mean, I think those Thursday meetings are great, but it's at these meetings where we actually make that kind of decision. And I think the motion to amend to waive the fee for non-liquor owners on Broadway is
Right.
reasonable. And then that way, it's a policy that we're all voting on.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I think it's a good suggestion. I just wanted you to be aware that we have these discussions every Thursday. It's not a new issue.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to, well, actually, I'm going to move to withdraw my original amendment in favor of Councilor Neville's wording. Actually, I think it's better.
Can you reword
Okay, you want to
that?
restate the motion, please?
So I would make a motion to approve Ben's Chili's request of 6 tables with the addition that for waiving the fee for business owners of non-liquor licenses of, wait, I've said it now 3 times, to add the amendment that we also waive the fee for sidewalk cafe applications for non-liquor licensed businesses for this year that are on Broadway during the construction.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Application for a sidewalk cafe with a new plan, 2 patties and a Canuck LLC, DBA Fifth Element, 107 to 111 Broadway.
Yes, this is an application for a sidewalk cafe amended for Fifth Element on Broadway. I move passage.
Second.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to receive the amended plan. It's not in the
Oh,
actual
okay.
council docket.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive the amended plan. Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
The motion and second to approve as amended. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for sidewalk cafe renewal, Nick's Fine Foods Incorporated, DBA Nicholas Pizza.
Yes, this is a renewal of a cafe renewal for Nick's Fine Food, Nicholas Pizza, 38 Memorial Boulevard. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a sidewalk cafe renewal, Broadway Tavern Limited, DBA Tavern on Broadway.
This is a renewal of cafe license for Tavern on Broadway, 1618 Broadway. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointments to boards and commissions.
Yes, I make a motion to appoint Carl A. Borg as the alternate on the Historic District Commission, the first alternate.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Make a motion to appoint as second alternate Howard Elliott.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Reappointments to the Newport Beach Commission.
Yes, I make a motion to reappoint C. Wayne Kraft, Martin Gallis, and Martha Marie Grogan, and Carol Nicodemus, reappointed to the Newport Beach Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5507.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to table action item 5507 at this time.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Madam Chair?
Aye.
Yes, Mr. McLaughlin. Yes.
My understanding is you wanted to withdraw it.
Yes, I'm sorry, withdraw.
You want to table? Okay. Madam
I'm
Chair.
sorry, withdraw.
Correction,
You're
I
right,
make a
Justin.
motion to
You're right.
withdraw action item 5507.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5508.
Madam Chair, this is continued from the last meeting. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to amend the accompanying ordinance to reflect that both sides, north and south of Wheatland Court, be restricted from parking.
Second.
There's a motion and second on an amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve accompanying ordinance as amended.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5511.
Madam Chair, it's a recommendation of the Harbor Division to proceed with the memorandum of understanding between the City of Newport and Clean Ocean Access to provide 2 trash skimmers for Newport Harbor. This project is designed to expand current efforts to improve the water quality of Newport Harbor in the area of Karate Park. Grant funding is provided through Clean Ocean Access, and I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Leonard.
I would like to thank those who applied for the grant. And what I would like to see, just as other organizations and nonprofits do and philanthropists, at the end of this season, that these have been used. I personally would like to see a cost analysis, and that would include the manpower, the electricity, and at the same time, which I think is even more important, is to have a review of how successful these skimmers have been, and whether there's a recommendation that these would be continued in use, but basically to analyze it, have they been successful with the goal that has been put forward? So, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor.
I just was wondering, I don't know much about these trash skimmers, but where have they been used in the past? And I just don't know much about them. I mean, why do we think they'll work in the harbor here?
Dave McLaughlin with Clean Ocean Access. The trash skimmers have been used successfully in San Diego, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and a few other places on the West Coast. So in working with the vendor and looking at the currents and flow in our harbor and like harbors, every indication that they should work well.
They skim the trash on the top of the surface, or do they get stuff off the bottom?
Yeah, it'll be the water on the top of the surface. The pump will just glide the water in and collect the debris.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5512.
Madam Chair, staff recommends approval of the petition from National Grid for the relocation of a pole on Graham Street to a position of 14 and a half feet north of the existing pole to correct aerial trespass of wires crossing private property. There's no fiscal impact. I move approval of accompanying petition.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor
I
Leonard.
just want to say that two of the neighbors called this Abigail Russell, who's in charge of this permit. She's the permit contact, and she said that they decided to leave it as is, and I'm not sure if they did or they didn't, but I personally would like to make sure that if it does move forward, we're not talking about adding additional poles other than just the one that they take out, if they do in fact take it out. But supposedly, this has gone away.
Well, thank you.
Mr.
No one told
Solis?
us that, so I guess we'll investigate it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Counselor.
I'm on a tear here. We had National Grid come and talk to us 6 months ago, and, had a wonderful conversation with somebody from customer relations, and I sent him an email, and I told him about the lights that are on Arrow. They've been out for 2 years, and I haven't heard from them. And, in some ways, I'd like to vote against anything that National Grid brings before us, just to send a message. You have responsibilities in this community to fix certain things. And I noticed they're putting new poles on your street,
Yes.
Mr. Manager. But if there's some way we can get the message to National Grid, we've had lights out on Arrow for over 2 years.
I think that, yes, I'd like to get the message to them, not just on this issue.
Yeah, I know, there are many others.
Actually, perhaps even my surprise that they were digging up the other side of Red Cross Avenue from the corner on down to Memorial Boulevard. As my wife said, "What are they doing?" And as my response was, "I don't know what they're doing."
Madam
So
Chair.
I share your concern, and I am aware that when I spoke at the Top of the Hill Association a couple of weeks ago, that was expressed to me about the streetlights on Arrow Street.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor.
I remember, because I sat on a lawn chair for like 6 hours in front of my house to keep National Grid from putting more poles in front of my house without permission. And I remember distinctly, they had to bring an engineer in from Springfield who said to me, and I never say who I am, he said, "Get out of the way, lady. We do what we want and get permission later." And I said to him, "I've now become your worst nightmare." And at that point in time, this council, not those sitting, but our council at the time voted that they could not install any new poles without council permission. So if that's what happened on Red Cross, then something needs to be done.
No, the lights were out, and they had to retrench the conduit from Old Beach, and they kept retrenching and retrenching and retrenching and retrenching all the way down to Memorial Boulevard, which was surprising. They actually did a nice job, but I think if I had my druthers, I'm not so sure the Cobras would have gone back there. I recognize the need for lights, and maybe there could have been some consideration for something a little more attractive, but they're there.
I remember us having 12 people from National Grid and council members at a meeting that we had in the council chambers where they said that they would be, they'd have better communication, they would come to the city, and I'm like Councilor McLaughlin, I haven't seen any improvement.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Are we ready to vote? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed?
I'm opposed because they said they weren't going to do it.
Motion passed.
Is that 6-1?
I don't know.
6-1.
She's, oh, you're opposed.
I'm opposed because they said they weren't going to
Okay.
do it. So if they're going to do it,
Next
they
item.
should
Please
come to the
record
city
the
and
votes.
verify it, not just do what they feel like doing.
Action number 5513.
Madam Chair, Department of Finance, MIS Division recommends the implementation of a virtual desktop pilot program for city virtual workstations. Contract to custom computer specialists. The total amount of the contract is $69,648.44. As some background, Madam Chair, the server virtualization was introduced to the city during the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2011 to reduce the cost of maintaining and replacing aged network servers. Server virtualization has been, according to Mr. Sint, a resounding success. It is currently budgeted. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second?
Madam Chair.
Yes, discussion.
I am going to support this. However, in the future, what I'd love to see is some sort of an analysis that demonstrates what the expected efficiencies are going to translate to from an ROI perspective, right? So right now, there's no real way for me to determine when I'm voting for this, if this is a nice to have, and I'm sure there are benefits towards it, right? But we're talking about a $70,000 expenditure for a pilot program. 85. With a potential overall implementation that could total in excess of $400,000. So what I want to see is, what does that mean? What kind of cost savings, what kind of more in-depth efficiencies can we expect, rather than us be handed this, a week and a half before, and then we have to vote on it. I spoke with you, Bill, earlier, and it was pretty compelling. But added to that story and to that detail, I'd love to see some numbers, if possible. It would really help me make, and everybody else on the council, our decision a lot easier.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor.
I totally agree with that. If we're going to spend money, we need to know that it's, and I'm not saying this isn't one of them, but we need to know that the money's spent wisely, and what's the cost benefit, what's the efficiency, what are the savings. I think we need to have a bigger picture when we vote on items, because 85,000 here and 85,000 there adds up to the pocketbooks of the people in this town who work hard.
Madam Chair, as a point of order, it's $69,648.44. That's what we're voting on tonight.
Currently budgeted, by the way.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5514.
Madam Chair, Department of Public Services recommends awarding the contract associated with roadway crack sealing 2016 project to Seal Coating Incorporated of Braintree, Mass. The cost of this work will not exceed a total amount of $92,000, and $10,000 included in that is police detail. Madam Chair, I'm going to have to make a motion at this time to amend the council resolution attached to reflect $92,000 total amount and $10,000 for police traffic control in the resolved. May I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second to amend the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the resolution as amended.
Second.
There's a motion second. Discussion?
Madam
Yes.
Chair?
So this touches on a personal sore spot for me, as well as many constituents that I've talked to. I'm glad that that figure for police detail was lessened to about $10,000, but that still accounts to about 12.5% of the overall budget. So think about that. The police detail, if we have $10 million worth of projects, anywhere between 1.2 and a half to $1.5 million is strictly allocated to police detail. That's a significant number, and I don't know if we have any jurisdiction locally with this, where it needs to be addressed on the state level. But you take Massachusetts, for example. In 2008, they passed legislation that allowed for civilian flaggers out there, and not in all conditions. These were in low-traffic, non-hazardous areas, and they saw cost savings totaling $45 million over 5 years. So I'd like us to, at some point, really, take a closer look and examine this and see if what we're doing here locally, if there are some solutions to help save some funds in this area.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Counselor.
I'd just like to point out that the $90,000 on here is for the total amount for the cost work for the sealant, but I'm not following Councilor Flores' mathematics on.
I see
it always
80,000
be-
here.
Well,
I see 80,000, the cost, the total amount.
we amended the cost from $102,000 to $90,000 and reduced the $23,000 police traffic control to $10,000. I'm just.
Sure, okay, so let's take a look. So we're looking at,
But I guess my point is not every single project, if it's a multi-million-dollar project, is going to cost, it's not always going to
Well,
be
that's
10 or
what-
12% of.
we don't know that. I've asked the administration for those figures.
Well, I mean, if they're making $65 an hour, and if they put in a $5 million pump station or something like that, or anything, it's also, the hardware costs,
Well,
and
I
We
understand.
don't know that.
hourly.
We don't know that. That's, Marco, that's why I asked the administration a couple of days ago to get me some figures on just some random samples of different projects.
Okay, but you're painting with a very broad brush.
No, I'm not.
on-
No, I'm not. I've asked the administration for very
Have we ever done a
specific-
$10 million project where the
No.
police detail has been $1 million?
I don't know what the costs are.
No, you're looking at this the wrong way.
Let me just,
I think I'm looking at it
You're
the right
looking
way.
at, you are not. You're definitively not looking at it the wrong way. Let me explain, because if you have 15 projects, right, ranging between 800,000 to $1 million or so, that adds up. So if you're looking at a percentage of 12 to 15% for all those smaller projects, when you add all of them up, if that is in fact the numbers, and we don't know that yet. That's why, as I stated earlier, I asked Joe to get me those numbers. We have to examine that, because if it's 11% here, and I can't get a definitive answer if this is par for the course, high for a typical project, then it's worth for us to further examine it. I don't think that's unreasonable, not when the taxpayer money is involved.
I'll
Madam
just
Chair?
tell you, I do,
Counselor, wait a minute. I believe the solicitor wants to add or comment. Yes, or city manager.
yeah, I do have some.
Sorry.
I do have some figures that I got late today, but I haven't been able to look at them and share them with anyone. But
Okay.
there is a path that we can follow here, I believe. It's not the path of comparing really flaggers to police detail. In some instances, if you bid a contract out and you said you must include flaggers and we're going to permit that because there is no issue of public safety, I can guarantee you that the costs are probably going to come in higher. As a matter of fact, they have in some instances. I also would never recommend that we hire flaggers on because of the amount of construction and because of the nature of the job, that we would hire them out, hire permanent flaggers on staff, because then we would start to add up the benefits we've got to provide, the negotiations that have to take place to get to the costs and the pensions and things like that. However, with that said, and flaggers, by the way, need to be trained. You actually have to go to get a little certificate about it, to how to operate. There may be some merit in terms of the cost, in terms of seasonal use in some instances, but I'm going to guarantee you there are some jobs which, we need the police detail on versus if we were to look at flaggers versus police detail. So there's some merit in pursuing some of the suggestions, at least in terms of, I think, maybe in terms of part-time seasonal use.
Yeah, I agree. It's case by case, and in some situations, there's no way around it. But I think as counselors, we have a responsibility to the public, not to say, oh, it's okay, that's the way they've been doing it forever. I'm sure everything's good. Let's not examine it. Let's not add any exploration into this, and let's be as it is, permanent. I think that's irresponsible.
And if you gave me $10 to $12 million to do roads, then I'd be more than happy to even look at it even closer. But remember, our budget is somewhat austere in terms of those improvements. But I understand the point, and it's an interesting debate that they had up in Massachusetts, and I've actually talked to some engineers today that were intimately involved in that issue it's an issue of their State Department of Transportation mandated a program like that, but there's still an ability of someone in that scheme to superimpose and say, no, they can't be used because of issues regarding safety and the like, and it's a unilateral decision.
Okay, thank
Madam
you,
Chair?
Mr. Nicholson, and I didn't mean to demote you. Yes.
This is nothing new, and I can tell you that 2 city managers ago, it was a heated debate, and I remember at the time, the city manager had said, I'm the public safety official, and I'll decide how many detail officers will be at every job, which kind of gave me heartburn. So it's nothing new, and I personally would welcome looking at the costs and what's mandated by the state and what isn't, so that we could try to get some savings here.
Well, I don't want to single, the issue is whether we can save some money in terms of construction jobs that we have in which a different tact can be used in terms of public safety. And maybe the jury's still out on that. I can examine it. I have some thoughts already on it in terms of the seasonal nature of it and the costs that are involved with it. We could not, it would be not a good move to consider, a permanent billet of laborers that do those types of jobs. It would not be fiscally responsible for the city, but to look at it on a seasonal basis, using trained personnel when public safety is not an issue, it's something that we should look at. I don't have any objection to that.
Thank you. I think the comments really have been very good, and it's certainly something that we should explore for the future, knowing our limited dollars going in and fixing our roads. So are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5515.
Madam Chair, it is recommended that the attached ordinance amendment providing for a 30-minute parking limit for 3 parking spaces on Mill Street daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. be approved. This amendment is recommended on a pilot basis in response to concerns expressed by area merchants. There is no fiscal impact. I move approval of accompanying ordinance change.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Leonard.
I just want to verify it's for 3 spaces? That's what was just
That's
said?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn as council and convene as Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
There's a motion and second to adjourn as council and convene as Board of License Commissioners.
The consent calendar?
We need to take a vote, Madam Chair.
Oh,
All in
I'm
favor.
sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
There's a motion second to approve the consent calendar in its entirety. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Public hearing on an application of 2 Patties and a Canuck LLC, DBA The Fifth Element, to expand their Class BV alcoholic beverage license.
Yes, this is a hearing in regard to Fifth Element to expand their Class BV license to their sidewalk cafe. Is there anybody here who would like to address the issue?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing and approve.
Second.
There's a motion and second to close the public hearing and approve. Discussion?
Madam Chair, is that...
Yes, Counselor.
Is that taking into account the new
Yes.
diagram?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
we have it on record? Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.